how to place joints for fingers even easier. Now, let's just do it the normal way. Let's go to top view. Let's press F to frame this guy. And let's go ahead and create some joints. So typically all you'll do is click here for the knuckle right here, another joint right here, another joint following it and then the tip. So right now you got 4 joints. Let's press Q. Let's go to perspective view and see what we have. So as you see what we have right here, just like the elbows and the knees, these joints should always favor the side of like the knuckle. So this should be a little bit higher up. This one of course should be a little bit lower, and this one lower as well, and this one right on the tip of the joint, so it's going to go down as well. Now, not all the time these are going to work, just by the simple fact of like, let's assume it's like a very deformed type of finger and whatnot, you would need another way in order to like paint the joints. So this works for now, but let's say it's like a more complicated looking finger. There's 2 other ways that I go about it. It just all depends on the actual finger you're rigging. This one's actually easy because the model is like a normal hand. But just to show you guys 2 other ways, if you find like it's more complicated to rig the finger joints and it's not just straightforward, these are 2 other ways that you can go about it. Just all depends again on the model. So let's go to create curve tool, CV curve tool, and I'm just going to hold down X and do 4 CVs just like so. The pivot point's over here, so I'm just going to hold down D and X in order to change the pivot point to here, right? And I'm going to as well, let's assume we're doing the middle finger, so I'm just going to hold down V and snap it right here, and I'm going to scale this guy so it's kind of the size of the finger itself, and that'll do. Now hold down right click and go to control vertex. Now again, you can simply go to top view, do the joints just like so. It won't come out perfectly, to be honest with you, just by the simple fact that I've just done rigging quite a few years now, that I can kind of get this straight aligned. But if you are starting rigging, this won't always come out straight just like so. Like honestly, once you're starting, this is how it might look like, and it won't be as straight. Now, might be exaggerating a little bit. Everybody has like different paces of getting better, but you want this to be straight for sure. You don't want any little mess ups like this. And I'm 100% sure the joints that I created originally here, there might be a little mess up, like maybe this is going a little bit too in. So that's why I always recommend like the other 2 ways. Just it depends like what you feel comfortable with. So once you make your curve, move the CVs down. Let's go to attribute editor, and under the shape, curve shape, you're going to open up components, component display, and then turn on the display CV. Let's put X-ray on just so you can see like the CVs on just like so. Now the next process I do, I just turn off the polygons just so I can see these CVs and go to create joints. Now for sure, I know this is a straight line because that's how I made it. All I did was scale it and just put the pivot point right here on the left CV. Now the only thing I might be having to tweak is going up and down, like the position of the joints once they're made. But for sure, if I hold down V and just click these CVs, I know without a doubt that this is in a straight line. Let's turn on the polygons. Now, the things I do need to tweak is just hold down D. Let's go first to world, so hold down W, left mouse click and go to world, just to know that we're going up and down and not like in an angle up and down. So I know I gotta move this guy up, down right there, this guy like this, the next joint a little bit down as well. And this one I can simply, let's turn off X-ray. I can snap to like this center pivot, which most of your models are gonna have. So I'm gonna hold down V and just snap right there. And we have a perfectly straight for sure joint chain for the fingers, and not just like eyeballing it, because you could have some mess ups, guaranteed. So in order to not have any little mess ups, I tend to do the curve like this, place it around here where the first knuckle will be, scale it to the size of the finger like you saw, turn on right here the display CVs in order to be able to snap the joints, and then I just align it up and down. The last way, which is, I don't really use this one, but you can, only if you wish to. We're going to go ahead and do the pinky, just so we can be like on an outer finger. Another way is simply, let's assume, I'm just going to select these rights to frame this, press F, just so we can be here. I'm going to select this CV, this vertex, and I'm going to select this vertex. Now this is a much more process, a longer process to do. So that's why I like just doing the curve, which is a really neat trick. I don't know where exactly I found out about it, but I remember just showing my classmates and they absolutely loved it. Like 3 of them were always asking me, oh, how do you go about doing the fingers? And I showed them that. So it was pretty neat, like knowing a little bit like tricks and tips. So you just go to the form cluster. This is the other way of like selecting verts and just clicking CVs in order to have like a pivot point of where to snap your joint. You can go ahead and click this, go to vertex, and again do a cluster. Same thing right here. I see the edge, the seam is going to be on this one. Go to vertex and do a cluster, and last but not least, select this edge, double clicking it, go to vertices and cluster. So now when I turn off polygons, I have clusters made. So when I go to create joints, just hold down V, 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 and we're actually going to need another one because it's going to be for the tip. So hold down V and click it right here on the tip. So again, this is another way of having, well, we actually do not need this joint, guys. I guess this is just modeled a little bit differently than I expected. Yeah, we're not going to need this joint. So again, if you remember how to take off a joint from there, just hold down Command or Control if you're on Windows, right click, go to Edit Joints and click Remove. And right now we just have the joints that we need. Now, this is a very weird modeling topology to have a finger for, because for sure you're going to need this one and this one. But the knuckle, I guess you can simply go ahead and move it a little bit more forward, even though the model, this right here is like where the knuckle is modeled, but this right here is like the seam of like the next finger. So it is kind of like, in my opinion, a little bit out of place, but doesn't matter. You can just simply go ahead and tweak this guy over here, position it a little bit more up, and I would for sure leave this here because the model is just like, these are the seams and the rule of 3 that you will need. So that is a very awkward position for a model, as opposed to these that we did. Well, this one as well has it. So sometimes models are not going to be 100% perfect and not going to make 100% sense, to be honest with you. It just depends like on which studio you're in and like the models that you're provided. But out of these 3 options, I highly recommend the curve one, that you just simply make a curve and you snap the pivot point here and place it, and it's always going to be straight. The cluster isn't 100% precise of making it straight, because depending on the model, like I said, and depending how the modeler modeled it, it could give you different results. So the one that's going to be 100% accurate is always going to be making a curve, then scaling it. Like you see, this is 0.2112 that I scaled it to the size of the finger, then move some CVs around, and then snap the joints to those CVs. Because eyeballing it, I don't recommend, and making this one, I don't recommend. But just so you guys know that there is a way and another like path that you can take if you choose to. But again, highly recommend just going to create CV curve tool. Make sure again as well, just in case, just to be on the safe side, do 1 linear curve degree. Snap, 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 snap. Then make sure that the pivot point's here instead, so hold down D and X. Or if you make the curve from the grid, you don't have to move the pivot point. You just want to make sure it's in the start of the curve. Now I'm just going to hold down V to snap this guy over here and make sure it's on the top of the knuckle. Go to the top view, holding down space and then clicking top view. Rotate it so it's like aligned right with the actual line and the span of this one. So I'm going to type 16 to see what happens. Okay, so 17, 16.5 is going to be the one I choose. You can always type in manually if you have like a very, very little number you got to tweak. Now I'm going to scale this guy just to show you for one more time before we move on. So scale it right there. Go to attribute editor. Under the shape node, have component display CVs. In order to actually be able to snap it, right mouse click and drag to control vertex, and make sure you're not on fall off. Make sure it's off so we can move each CV independently, just like so. And it doesn't have to be perfect when you move the CVs. It's just to have it closer and not have to move the joints too much. Go to show polygons, and now just to show you guys as well, when I click this curve and have display CVs off, when I go to create joints, I'm not able to snap it to here because there's no vertex or CV showing. So always have this on. Go to skeleton, create joints, just hold down V and just click along the line that you made. Go again to show polygons, and all you have to do is tweak this guy holding down D. Remember, it's D, not if you just go ahead and move it, you're gonna move all the joints. Hold down D, move it around up and down. It's the only one you should move in order to have like that straight line still there. And this guy, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have like a vertex right here. So you can just simply snap to it, holding down V since it is an end joint, and you have a perfect straight line for a joint chain for the finger. The way I'm doing this is just selecting the 3 joints and rotating it, and that's it. That's all there's to it. So highly recommend don't do the eyeballing, don't do the cluster, only if you think it's better for your workflow. Everybody has a different workflow, and I highly recommend just doing this one, making the curve and then snapping the joints to CVs, and you're good to go. See you guys in the next lesson.